Obviously, he did a great job. It's the most I've ever heard him stay on track in 40 years of knowing him in speech. He did an awesome job, I thought. He left my voicemail today. I haven't had a chance to talk to him since we both got back. But no, I think it was a great honor. He obviously did a great job with his presentation and his speech. I think the one thing, as I told the team yesterday, what stands out in talking to, whether it's Hall of Famers that are in or you listen to people's speeches, whether it's Chauncey Billups to Doug Collins to anybody, they all had to overcome some form of adversity, even as a Hall of Famer. And I think that's a great lesson. I always try to take things to relay to these guys and give them a feel for what it was like, around Larry Bird or Magic or whoever. I mean, that was a who's who for the most part. So just that was one thing that I think resonated in everybody's. It wasn't an easy road to where they got to, but I thought Coach did a great job, and I think that the time I was there on Sunday, everybody did a great job. That was really well run, and obviously a tremendous honor for him.
We've talked about the ways that John has taken a step with his mindset. It's obviously never been a problem with Max, but as far as increased opportunity, how can you kind of see a jump there, just with the amount of shots that he could be taking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to have a number that I'm going to put on him. What he is, he's still working his way back. He hasn't been with us full time. Maybe the last 2 days is the most he's had. So I think for him, he's still trying to use better today than what he was over the weekend or last Friday. So I think there's him still getting back into the rhythm of sitting out quite a bit. We're still working his way back and not throwing him completely into everything. But that'll find its way. Offense always organically finds places that should have come from. Obviously, he's got experience, so that's the one thing he's really confident. And that's what you want in a shooter and older guys. He plays fearless, and he's continuing to do that.
Given the way that Jack kind of seems to stick his face in the fan and that's a great aspect, is he a guy you could potentially see being tough to have on the bench at times?
Potentially. I mean, there's a battle there. I think for a variety of positions. It's not just 2 or 3 guys battling for one player spot. I think across the board, you can shift positions to make other guys available. So yeah, Jack's competing, and Jack does things that maybe don't jump off the page, but he makes a lot of winning plays. His numbers may not jump off the page when you look at a box score, but he's doing a lot of things that winning teams do.
Similar thing with John talked about playing him at the 4. So is that because you're trying to find ways to get him on the floor, or is that
I mean, it's matchup determined too. At times, who can play a little smaller. A lot of teams are doing that. They're playing 4 guards or 4 perimeters around the game. So I think just trying to find our ways to put our best lineup on the floor. And what is our best lineup? Is it going bigger? Is it playing smaller? Is it somewhere in between? I think we're still evolving and trying to find exactly what's the best. What may be the first 5 minutes of the game might be different than the first 5 minutes of the second half. I'm still learning. I got some guys that I know are going to be on the floor regardless of the lineup, but how it mixes and matches around those 2 or 3 guys, we're still learning.
Where do you think you're at in your point guard assessment? Obviously, you still have a ways to go. Hunter and McGee, just because of their experience, guys that you feel like...
Yeah, McGee has consistently separated himself. I think he's been the most consistent, and quite frankly, has played the best over the 2.5 weeks so far. So. And again, another thing that has been always numbers dependent, but the leadership, the vocalization that I hear from him. And a lot of that is because of his experience. Hunter's played 2 years in college, but he hasn't been here. Cam McGee has a little leg up in that. So he knows and he's comfortable with who he's playing with and in what we want. We're still away through November 4th. Yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow.
John Tonjes, it seemed like today both of them, got the opportunities from him. How does that spacing kind of help you set your lineups in a way when
well, we tried to intentionally, as we built this roster, make sure we had shooting at the forward spots, and that's something that I think if you look at where the game has gone to, you need more shooting than have on the floor, the better. But you have to be able to do other things too. The ability to defend and rebound in that forward position. Nolan Winter has by far and away led us in rebound through all. It is a second isn't close. He's really attacked the ball pretty well. And you have to be able to do a lot of things. It's not just the shooting. That's great, but if you can't defend and rebound, and you can't give up more than you get. So I think they all compete. They all bring something a little different. Winter and Crowell looks different, and it feels different than Winter and Crowell and Tanji, Crowell and Amos. So I think so we're still figuring out what is the best combination. And quite frankly, it's changed by the day. Guys have played a little better, or have stayed. They haven't taken a step, and the next day they take some 2 steps. So you're just trying to find that consistency. And I think Blackwell, Crowell, McGee probably have been the most consistent. Buzzman obviously been in out of the lineup now, so he hasn't had a chance to maybe settle in as much as those other 3 older guys have done, or experienced guys. But it's a good problem to have. They don't have options, and they're battling it out.
But as time has gone on a little bit in practice, I know there's still plenty of time, but where have you seen Ricardo get a little bit more comfortable, maybe confident? It seemed like he made a little more impact, especially with his playmaking.
Yeah, I think he's not pausing and trying to overthink things as much. And, he has a flow for being dramatic, which is common for players in Italy. They play with he's going to throw something that might my blood pressure go up a little bit. But I got to find the balance between what he should be doing and what he can get away with. And there's things, the game is a little different. Spacing is a little, I think that's been an adjustment for him. How fast the game is, as I mentioned before. He's mentioned that's been an adjustment. I think he's gotten more accustomed with that. He's gotten more comfortable with the bodies and arms flying around. I think the physicality of the game has done something for him, but not that he has to learn how to be more physical, and he can be because he's a good kid. But I think just he's gotten more comfortable, which has allowed him to slow down and not play as well.
Last year we saw you guys using more of a traditional point guard. A lot of times on the floor, we saw a lot of Max and John Healy more. Do you think you feel more comfortable this year, maybe not using a traditional point guard as much, given how they've been?
Yeah, it's situation dependent, really. I think in transition, you're likely to see John or Max more with it, depending on who gets out early in transition or who's near the rebound and who has the rebound. If one of those 2 guys obviously rebounded themselves, it makes sense for them to let them play. It's really situational dependent. I think comfortable with either one of them there. I don't know if they're going to be there right out of the gate, but I think you have to have multiple ball handlers on the floor. Playing 2 point guards together, 2 combos together is not. We're not really that dependent on one player constantly. We should, if we're moving the ball well, we shouldn't have to over dribble. We shouldn't be over dribbling. We're not very good offensively. Our best days have been probably the minimal amount of dribbles on the floor when the ball is popped and our bigs have found each other in some high lows and guards have made good decisions off different times, playing a ball screen. So it's really the amount of dribbles per possession probably equates to points per possession, quite frankly.
Probably has the most experience in making football leads. Do you need a guy with that type of experience on the floor, even though you have guys that can run the ball?
I mean, most of the game is an organic flow. You're going to have some late possessions where you want the ball in playmakers' hands, and obviously I think I have multiple of those guys that have been in that situation before. So it varies, and we still haven't worked a lot of late game situations yet. And really, we're going to find that out. If we can make shots, we can make plays as we get a little closer here. I'll put them in the right situations, and I want to see who can make shots and can answer when the time comes.
Is your preference to have Winter at the floor, or it's situational? But are you any closer on the
played
backup?
Well. I think I'm a little closer in my mind, but I think he's played really well. He's really, I think, in the last 8 to 10 days, taken a jump. I've seen him play more physical and more aggressive. I mentioned the rebounding stats that really, I think, caught us all by surprise how much he had rebounded the ball, specifically defensively. And he's done some good things. He's still learning. He's not where he needs to be yet. He won't be. He's going to be a good player. I don't know if it'll happen in November or February or 2025, or 2026. But he's trending in the right direction. I mean, at 7 feet with his skill set, you just got to keep feeding him, literally, but also just helping him keep growing his game. And he's done a better job of playing off 2 feet, going through contact. And he's had more three-point plays in the last week than he probably has had in a year and a half combined. So that's a good sign.
Coach, what's your assessment of Carter Gilmore? Seems like he's coming out of his shell, more active, his shot looking more fluid.
He just makes, he just creates hustle opportunities. He made a possession-saving play yesterday. You guys weren't in. He dove for a ball, saved it from going out of bounds. It was a scramble situation. He ended up getting a wide-open three as a result of his hustle and his extra effort. He just does those things that I think we need him to do in that role. It won't be glamorous. It's going to be hard hat and lunch pail and playing hard. So I think he is more comfortable. I think he's coming out of his shell, so to speak, if there is such a thing. But I think his energy and just how hard he plays is infectious. And it's there's numerous times he's extended possessions on popping an offensive rebound or popping a defensive rebound loose and getting another possession for the offense. And there's numerous times I've seen him dive on the floor to extend possessions. He just does little things that you need to have success.
What's been the challenge of bringing 7 newcomers in who have a different level of defensive background, blending them with your group, and how has that gone over the last 2.5 weeks?
I think they've done a good job. There's obviously mistakes, and there'd be mistakes if we had all 7 returners. It's about building habits, and understanding why the system is in place that it is, and it's individually within it. Some can roll the dice a little bit more than others because recovery time and size and foot speed and length and all those things. So they're still learning what their limitations are and what their extensions are, so to speak, defensively. But we're getting better. You saw some of the 4-on-4 perfect possession stuff. The newer guys don't understand why, and it's not really a habit to go over ball screens when we need to. Those type of things, the rotations. We ball watch or person watch. Specifically, I see it. The older guys are better at it, which they should be. They've had more experience. They've had multiple years in here and know the hows and whys. And had game experience. It'll look like one thing in a practice, but then we need to play somebody else. October 26th can't come, quite frankly, fast enough. I wish we could play more than 2, because we need to see some outside competition. Just so I get a better idea. Mix and match a lot. We're at a point where we need to be tested from the outside. That'll be my next thing with the NCAA is we need more than 2 opportunities. I don't know why we're stuck on 2. It's, quite frankly, doesn't make a lot of sense.
Last week, we talked about Steve wanting him to get the ball every 2 or 3 possessions. How do you kind of balance him getting his scoring opportunities versus kicking out the shooters when you have as many as
That's his field. That's his decision. We want him aggressive. It's not too many times, probably in 2.5 weeks of practice, that I told him he should pass it. He's really cerebral, and he's getting more selfish, which is good. But he's a very willing, able, passer from that low post. So we got to continue to play through him as much as we can. It sets up not only his ability to be efficient, but everybody shoots high percentage from 3 when the ball comes through. We play through them where offense becomes a lot simpler.